Gaming has become sort of like a cultural denominator alongside, what music you used to listen to or what clothes you used to wear. Gaming is firmly embedded there.
But I'm sure most people don't understand how big this actually has gotten and how it feels very much like we're only at the beginning of this sort of esports type thing. I was wondering if you could talk about the rise of that and what that means for the entertainment world and brands and how they should be thinking about that.
Yeah, so I think it is absolutely a growing phenomenon. It is still niche in terms of its sort of consumer penetration, but is nonetheless grabbing all the headlines. I think there are a number of opportunities and reasons why companies are becoming so interested in the segment. One, gaming has generally just penetrated the general public. I mean, you've got well over a third of the 16 plus online population plays games on mobile, console, or PC these days. So gaming has become sort of like a cultural denominator alongside, what music you used to listen to or what clothes you used to wear. Gaming is firmly embedded there. And there are a couple of opportunities there. Specifically, of course, you've got, it's a market ripe for a lot of sponsorships, live events, etc. But just as importantly, if not more importantly, actually, is the opportunity around broadcast media rights, right? You've got essentially like a very, very valuable assets to current sports teams are, sort of live games broadcast. And companies are still kind of trying to figure out what the right format is, what the commentary should look like, etc. But there is nothing to stop us from thinking that in a few years those rights will be reaching sort of similar importance as the current sports rights, because it's live, it's live entertainment, it's got a competitive aspect to it, and it's a competitive aspect for an activity that's adopted by a really large part of the general public. So if anything, actually, you've got certain sports that sort of are more popular or less popular. You've got, I guess, gaming, whereby you are going to find gamers from across genres actually just engaging in watching sports.
That's why I sort of wonder: is there, given that gaming or specific games can traverse across multiple geographies, whereas sport, on the other hand, can be quite even the biggest sports, whether it's football or basketball, they don't necessarily traverse across all geographies, whereas gaming appears to just doesn't matter. It's like I wonder whether it could. Do you think it's ever going to be bigger? Could it be bigger than more traditional sport? Do you think, or
I'm not sure if it would be bigger yet, but it was I think Liverpool CEO Peter Moore, I think that's his name. He said that he's worried about losing fans to gaming because even from our surveys we can see the propensity for them to play video games rather than watch live sports. Partly because of the length of time that it takes to watch a game. If you're talking American football, it's 3 hours. Basketball as well, baseball especially. It just doesn't resonate with that audience anymore. Who haven't potentially spending too much time gaming, so they're not actually playing at a grassroots level.
Do they build fans? These esports? Do they sort of build fan bases in the same way that traditional, Liverpool, for example, obviously it's got its fan base. Do you get the same thing with teams in?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So I remember being at Gamescom a few years back, and that was kind of when I first thought to myself, "Wow, this is really becoming big." You've had stands that were selling esports team merchandise with a good half an hour, 45-minute queue of people wanting to buy a jersey of their favorite esports team and an esports athlete.
So cool.
To them, these people are, just as distinguished as to perhaps to myself as a pro sports athlete. There is a whole amount of rigor that they need to put into their trainings. It's sort of hours and hours of dedication, and there is a skill involved, right? So.
Although it's almost like you can liken it to, if you went back right to say 1940s, or maybe where before music became a big fan-based mainstream sort of pop music. It's only been around for sort of 100 years or so. That was such a cultural change, and it's sort of changing again now, almost on the reverse. But you can almost liken it to that. You can see there's this whole new thing that's cropped up. There's a generation of kids that have, grown up with gaming, and now all of a sudden they can interact with it in a completely different way. It's fascinating to watch.
It's not going anywhere as well.
No, that's for sure.
So I think companies like the NBA then they did a partnership with Take-Two Interactive. They've launched an NBA 2K league. So every franchise in the real world has its own designated esports team. And that's how potentially fans are going to engage with the sport on a virtual level. And then
so your Liverpool, guy who's worried about, I was going to suggest that the way for him is to embrace it essentially and sort of try and build that out in the gaming world as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think NBA is going exactly the right direction in terms of this. The key thing is for all the sort of traditional sports to make sure that this is an opportunity to embrace rather than something to compete against. This is just something that's happening. It's not something you can stop. And so I think the sports that are going to do best out of it are going to be the ones that are going to embrace the esports aspect as a wider part or an extension to sports. I think we're going to see esports at the Olympics very soon, actually. So they've already been considered in the Asian Games, I think, last year. And, really there is no reason not to. The only argument that I think the Olympic Commission has been making is sort of that they want to be careful about, sort of promoting sort of violent games and stuff like that. But actually, if you think about Olympic disciplines like fencing,
wrestling,
archery,
boxing,
wrestling, all of these things historically came from, unfortunately, killing people. But the Olympic Committee has recognized there's some sort of skill involved, and there are now targets. You are not, the archers are not shooting live people, and just in that same sort of angle, from that same angle, there could be a game where you might have something like Call of Duty, but you don't see, sort of people dying and blood. You'll see moving targets or what have you. It can be adjusted. Yeah. But the argument alone that, this is to do with violence, to me, just does not hold up if you're going to sort of keep consistent across disciplines.